Hello everyone. If you've been following my channel for some time, or if you've just watched a lot of my AK videos, you'll probably have noticed that I do a lot, or in the past I did a lot of videos on my old build on pistol grips. And given that I have a new build now that I just recently finished, this PSA AK-101 here, that means it is time for yet another pistol grip video. Partially kidding, I'm mostly going to be talking about just some general discussion I have on pistol grip recommendations, because I did yet again go through an enormous process of kind of selecting what I thought would be the best option, because I do think a lot about pistol grips, and I do think they matter quite a bit because these are an area you grip a ton. So having something that is as comfortable and ergonomic as possible, I think, is very important. I also think it's pretty hard to find one that works pretty well on AKs. Just there's a lot of kind of weird and not ideal options out there, at least for me, kind of larger hands and everything like that. So what I'm going to be talking about today is mostly the grips that I did use in the past. As I said, I've done a lot of reviews on those. Most of those reviews are still up on the channel. One of them is unlisted for reasons I'll discuss because I no longer recommend that grip. But if you're interested, it's still in the playlist, the AK Upgrades playlist. So you can still find it there if you're interested on YouTube. But just up front, just to start off with what I would recommend for pistol grips, in case you just want to know that and the reasoning behind it, and then just click off the video. I would recommend either something like this. This is a Vepr 12 pistol grip, which I have on here. You can see it has finger grooves, but otherwise it's pretty similar to something like you see on the modern Izmash pistol grips, which I think are another excellent option. The only difference is just the Izmash ones have no finger grooves. Personally, I am a fan of finger grooves so long as they line up properly, which they don't always. This one, at least for me, lines up pretty much perfectly. Very comfortable there. The second option I would say that is a good, really good pistol grip, but would not be my primary choice simply because it's very difficult to find, is this one right here, the original AK-12 pistol grip. I like that it's fairly vertical. It has a palm swell here in the center, really nice with that. And again, you can see has some minor finger grooves. However, these also, they don't line up perfectly, at least with my hand. But really, yeah, the biggest issue with this is it is very difficult to find at a reasonable price. And it's also actually a little bit difficult to install on your regular AKs. This grip is supposed to use its own AK-12 T-nut. There's a way around that. Actually, if you just rotate your regular T-nut 90 degrees, it'll have enough clearance to work. So that is one alternative if you want to go with this style of grip. Now, the criteria I use to select a pistol grip for myself, which I think will actually apply to pretty much everyone out there, regardless of your own build, your own hand size, arm length, length of pull, whatever, is generally I do look for a more vertical pistol grip. It doesn't have to be a complete 90-degree drop. For example, I think it's the Fab Defense Gratis, I want to say is the name of it. I know it's a Fab Defense grip. At any rate, they make one that is super vertical. So that is an option if you do like those very vertical grips. But generally, I do like something that's less angled than just, for example, your A2 pistol grip on an AR, simply because, especially on an AK, your standard stock is a lot shorter length of pull. So having something that isn't going to torque your wrist more so with this steep of an angle and having it more vertical is very comfortable. And actually, even just the regular grip that comes stock on most AKMs, AK-74s, it works totally fine with the angle. I've never really had an issue with the angle on those. But that does lead me into my second criteria that I look for a lot, and this will be completely dependent on your own hand size now. It's the size of the pistol grip itself. So that is the reason why I don't like the regular pistol grips. Although they have a nice angle, they are really thin. So this AK-12 pistol grip, like I said, has that little palm swell there, which you can see pretty well there. Quite nice, really fits my hand well. Similarly, this Vepr grip, which again, pretty similar to like the modern Izmash one, you can see it is pretty wide here at the bottom. It does narrow down a little bit here at the top, but it's not so much compared to some of the other pistol grips I had. For example, in the past, one of the earlier videos I did was on a Fab Defense pistol grip, not their Gratis, just one of their older models. And ultimately, I don't have that one anymore. Actually, I don't have any of those pistol grips anymore except for this one and the AK-12 one I was just showing, just because they didn't work out. I ended up donating or throwing away all of them at some point. So that Fab Defense one was just way too narrow at the top, in my opinion. Compared to this one, you can see even at the narrowest point, it's not that narrow. It fits well, very comfortable. One thing on this pistol grip is, interestingly, I always thought that this pistol grip, it looks very angled. I will say actually though, from using it, it's not bad at all. It feels very similar to this AK-12 pistol grip, maybe slightly more angled. I didn't ever make an exact measurement, but it's good. It is very comfortable either way. Now as for the last criteria for what I look for in a pistol grip is actually more of an anti-criteria, you could say, because I just look for something that's not rubberized. So this is a hard polymer. Generally that's what I go with. Wood as well, that works totally fine. The only other one I generally do avoid is like an aluminum or just an all metal grip. My reasoning for disliking those metal grips is, especially in cold, extreme heat, in those types of conditions, those just get very uncomfortable. And then the reason I don't like rubberized is I actually, a long time ago when I first started this channel even, I did kind of lean more towards liking rubberized grips, but I've went the opposite direction now because they tend to get overly sticky, or they just have too much give and it just feels weird in my hand. They get overly dirty, they're pretty hard to clean, and when you do clean them, some solvents don't play well with the rubber, so it can melt it away if you're not careful. The rubberized grips that I used in the past, so I had the Fob Defense one that I mentioned earlier. That one was just overly sticky, but the rubber was well made enough. It didn't have any issues with solvent or anything like that. The second one that I used, and this is the unlisted video I mentioned earlier, was the ATI. That was, unfortunately, I just had bad luck with a lot of ATI's products. I used to own one of their full furniture sets in the past. That is the only full furniture set where I have 100% failure rate. It is all broken over time. Same thing happened with the pistol grip eventually. One time when I was going to reinstall it, they use a very weak polymer and just cracked through where the T-nut connects. So that whole grip is trashed now. Now, this whole texture rubberized discussion, this does bring me to one point that is actually a little bit of a downside. I do wish, I do like this grip, like I said, and that AK-12 grip, but they both could have done this better. There's not enough texture on either of these, as you can see right there. On this pistol grip, it's just smooth polymer. Similarly, on the AK-12 pistol grip, it has a little bit more texture, but you can see it's not much. The texture you have is just a little bit on these finger grooves, and that is it. That's all you have. Now, if that is an issue to you, personally, you know, it can get a little bit slick when it's wet, but it's still, the finger grooves and everything, the shape, it does kind of reinforce my grip here, so I'm not slipping out too much. But if that is an issue to you, another reason I do like hard polymer pistol grips or wood is you can just stipple these yourself. It's not hard to do with either a Dremel or a soldering iron. And yeah, you can easily put some just simple grip texture here and really help to hold your grip hand in place. Now, I said earlier I only had these two grips, this Molot one and the AK-12. There is actually one exception to that, and that is my Wasser. I have a old Custom Arms Russian-made pistol grip on there, and I'll put up some photos of it just because I don't have it on hand right now. It is a pretty good grip. It has good texture. Again, hard polymer, comes with a storage compartment, though the cap will work its way out in recoil, and mine is gone somewhere. And that one does have a little bit more of a steep angle though, as you can see, compared to this. Now, although that is a Russian-made pistol grip, one thing interesting about it, the reason I'm bringing it up, is you can actually still get it because that specific design has a ton of clones out there for a very cheap price, presumably very similar polymer construction. So if you want to go with that shape, you can just go on something like Optics Planet. There's a ton of just random brand names that are making the exact same design and should work fine if that's something you want to look at. As I said, has more of an angle for me than I would prefer. Otherwise, everything about it is really, really comfortable. It's definitely up there. Not my favorite pistol grip anymore either, but not a bad one by any stretch of the imagination either. And on that same topic, so kind of closing up the video here, my main recommendation would be something like this. This is a really nice pistol grip. If you can find the Izmash version, if you're not a fan of finger grooves, or if you just happen to find it easier, then I would definitely say to go with that. Excellent pistol grip, just I would want more texture, but other than that, it is really good. One other thing on this type of pistol grip is there is a lot of clones of this out there. So if you want to go with one of those, by all means, they probably work very similarly, and you probably shouldn't have any issues. It's just a pistol grip after all. But if you are looking at clones of these types of pistol grips, just make sure that it is actually polymer, if that's something you look at. As I mentioned, I don't like rubberized grips, and I know that there's a TDI Arms, a somewhat clone of specifically the Izmash version of this pistol grip, which, as I said, just doesn't have those finger grooves. And that one is rubberized. I think actually everything from TDI arms, which I think was formerly known as Command Arms, which also, if I'm remembering correctly, formerly had a different name. So kind of weird that they keep changing their name. But yeah, I think all their grips are rubberized. So if that is something you don't like, then do watch out for that. I did also just want to talk about two other honorable mentions I had for grips. The first of which is one that I actually used quite a bit of, but prior to making this channel, and that was the Magpul, just the standard AK grip. They make a rubberized version as well and a slim version nowadays, but back then I just used their regular one and it was decent. My biggest complaint about it is that it feels almost like you're gripping kind of a small brick. It doesn't have a whole lot of shape to it. It's overly rectangular, I would say, but it does fine. It's a hard polymer. Again, the one I use, they do have a rubber version, and it has a decent amount of texture to it. Another option is the Hogue grips. Now those are all rubberized, but in my opinion, I have one of those on my SIG 522, and it's probably the most palatable of all the rubberized grips I've found. So if you're not someone that likes a rubberized grip, but you just don't have any other options, the overall grip shape, I think, is actually really, really comfortable on the Hogue. Personally, I do wish they would make a version that's not rubberized because I like everything else about it. So that would be my recommendation. The Molot or the Izmash or any of those clone derivatives of this style of grip. They're surprisingly really good. I'd always dismissed these actually myself because just from pictures, they look very angled. And even right now it looks angled, but for me, I really don't feel it. And I usually do prefer a very, very much vertical grip. So if that's worth anything, then I don't know, but take that for what it's worth. And if you have anything else to add about pistol grips, your own personal preferences or anything else, by all means, would love to hear that. Leave those in the comments below. Hope you all enjoyed. Take care. See you all in the next one.